Okay, so what if we could take all the ancient wisdom of humanity and, I don't know, channel it through something like AI to create a real, practical blueprint for a better world? Sounds pretty out there, right? Well, today we're going to look at a plan that's trying to do exactly that. It's a radical idea that tackles everything from climate change to, that feeling that we've kind of lost our way. So let's dive right in. So, what's interesting is that this whole blueprint, it doesn't kick off with some grand solution. Nope. It actually starts with a question, a really deep, kind of startling question about where we're all headed with artificial intelligence. And there it is. Who will teach AI about humanity's soul? Just let that sink in for a minute. We're building these incredibly powerful systems, right? But who's actually in charge of teaching them about our values, our spirit, our soul? It's a huge question, and it's the one that the founder of this project, Mudassar Malik, is asking. And you want to know the craziest part about where this question came from? It wasn't from some think tank or a tech billionaire. It came from the founder's own 5-year-old son, Zunair. When robots read our holy books, who will teach them what they mean? I mean, wow. It just goes to show you how deep and personal the motivation behind this whole thing really is. It's about the next generation. Okay, so we've got this really big philosophical question driving everything. But let's shift gears from the why to the how and the where. Because the origin story of this project is, well, it's incredibly dramatic. We're talking about a blueprint that literally rises from the ashes. Yeah, you heard that right. It all started with a house fire. The catalyst for this entire vision wasn't some brainstorm in a boardroom. It was a devastating personal crisis. The founder's family literally lost their home. And this quote right here, this is the moment everything changed. See, instead of just, rebuilding the same old thing, he asked a much bigger question. What is the most climate resilient, spiritually grounded building I could create right here? Suddenly, out of this total disaster, there's this opportunity to rethink everything. Not just a house, but a home, a whole community. And that's what sparked the project at One Lake Drive in Bear, Delaware. So, from that fire, from that big question, what was actually built? What's the tangible solution we can look at? Well, it's a whole new model for how we live, and it's called the Sanctuary Suburb. Now, when you look at what this project is all about, it's really a mix of two big things. About 70% of the focus is on the physical stuff, the real estate transformation. The other 30%? That's dedicated to integrating AI with all that ancient wisdom we talked about. It's like it has a body and a soul, a physical reality and a philosophical one, working together. Okay, so let's get into the definition. What exactly is a sanctuary suburb? The key thing to get is that it's not just about fancy, eco-friendly buildings, it's a whole system. You've got resilient architecture, yeah, but it's combined with permaculture, basically food growing everywhere, and this layer of ethical AI. The goal for all of it, fostering well-being for both people and the planet. And this really shows you how different the thinking is here. Think about our typical suburbs today. A lot of sprawl, not very resilient to climate change, and honestly, pretty isolating. This model flips that on its head. Instead of sprawl, you get what they call sacred density, which is about being closer, but in a good way. Instead of vulnerability, you get climate resilience. And instead of isolation, you get a community that's actually built for connection. The actual architectural plan is, well, it's super cool. The model is called Village per Acre. So imagine a whole village on just 1 acre of land. It's inspired by this incredible building called Habitat 67. The idea is to use modular, stackable container homes, which, by the way, are designed to be fireproof and flood resilient. And it's not just buildings. They're woven into these permaculture food forests. The big, audacious goal here? To turn regular old suburban land into what they call sacred ground. All right, so that's the hardware, right? The physical buildings, the layout. But what about the software? What's the operating system that runs this whole community? Let's get into the moral and philosophical framework that's supposed to guide everything. And this is it. The 7 skills of Scripture. You can think of it as the core curriculum for living in this community. And what's really, really important here is that it's universal. These aren't ideas from just one religion. They're drawn from the shared wisdom of major world texts, the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Dhammapada. So you have things like breath, which is about mindfulness, or gardening, which teaches regenerative ecology. It's a practical framework for how to live a good, ethical, and balanced life. I love this quote. Copy the conscience before the code. It's such a simple, powerful idea, right? It means before you build anything, whether it's a line of code for an AI or a physical building, you have to figure out the ethics first. The conscience, the moral compass, has to be the starting point, always. And that principle, conscience before code, leads directly to this concept of sacred AI. Look, this is not your typical AI that's just designed to be faster or more efficient. This is about building an AI that's been trained on sacred texts and moral philosophy, the good stuff. The whole point is for it to help us learn, support our emotional health, and actually encourage us to be better people. It's an unbelievably ambitious idea. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking. This all sounds amazing, but who pays for it? How do you fund a vision this grand? Well, that's where the economic engine comes in. And you guessed it, just like everything else we've seen, it is completely woven into that same ethical framework. The whole financial side is built on something called the mens rea principle. And what this does is totally reframe how we think about money. It says that capital isn't just a commodity to be traded for profit. It's a covenant, a sacred trust. So the number one goal isn't making more money. It's regeneration. It's about healing the planet and our communities. Profit? That's just a byproduct, a secondary outcome.
So how does that work in practice? Well, here's a really concrete number for you, 2.5%. The model calls for a 2.5% dignified contribution from what it calls idle wealth, money that's just sitting around not doing much. This idea is based on the zakat equity model. And listen, this isn't some polite suggestion for a donation. It's built into the system as a requirement to reinvest that wealth back into things like planting fruit trees and healing the land.
And this table really pulls it all together. It shows how the whole thing is designed to be a regenerative cycle. You see the financial contribution, that 2.5%, leading to a measurable output, like more fruit trees planted. You see changes in agriculture, like holistic grazing, leading to better soil. It's a closed-loop system where every single part, from finance to tech, is designed to feed back in and actively make the whole community and the planet healthier.
Which, of course, brings us all the way back to the biggest question of all. We've got this incredibly detailed, unbelievably ambitious blueprint, but can it actually be done? Can this kind of utopia really be built in the real world?
I mean, the scale of the ambition here is just breathtaking. It all starts so small, on just a single acre in Delaware. But the goal isn't just to build one cool community. The goal is to create a living, breathing prototype that could spark a massive ripple effect, leading to planetary renewal. And so that's where we'll leave it, with the ultimate challenge this project puts forth. It's one thing to dream about utopia, right? But can we actually build it? Can we take it from a philosophical idea and make it tangible, a real place with real soil and a real community? That is the massive question this entire experiment is trying to answer.